God damn it.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. And the truth shall set you free.
Small changes.
There you
How's it going, man?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Where are you right now?
I'm in my home bar.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I thought you were just like,
I can
yeah,
show you.
sure. I thought you were just like at some bar somewhere.
No, this is so like if you walk into my place, I can show you real quick.
Man, that's awesome.
There's like pocket doors, so you walk in and just like whatever. There's a little like hint up here. I call it the sneaky crow, so like a little crow.
Yeah.
And you open the doors and it's totally full on.
Man, that's really cool.
Sneaky. Yeah. So like that's the logo, and then I've got my collection of mugs and stuff of all the things you need back here, refrigerator and shit like that.
Man, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean it's turned me into an alcoholic, but whatever.
Yeah. It's like what do you like to do? I like to experiment a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Well, the truth is like I don't own this home. This is a rental, and my landlord has no idea that I did that. But I moved in, and I think it's just like in California, rental rates are so high. It's just like insane. Like a starter house was like $600,000 or $700,000, and that's like for a 1 to 2 bedroom tops in a bad area.
Yeah, that's insane.
And I was always like, every time I moved into a place, it never really felt like mine. And
Yeah.
so, and when I saw I had this 8 foot by 8 foot by 8 foot walk-in closet, I was like, yeah, I'm going to turn this into a bar because,
Yeah, why not,
Why
man?
not? Why not have the experience?
Well, that's awesome. Well, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Face the Truth. You know that this is what we're doing because it says it on my hat right there. So that's what this is, Face the Truth. I'm excited to talk to this homeboy from the West Coast. I got his credits and all his shit here. It's insane. We're gonna get into it. I'm gonna use it as a guide to just talk to this guy. But I first knew this guy for his illustrations, his caricature work, his cartoon work, his design work. But he's done it all, man. He's produced comedy shows, really awesome comedy shows, all kinds of podcasts. I mean, he's all over the place. You know,
That's true.
It's a little bit overwhelming. The list is like about 5 pages long of all the awesome things that he's done. Anyways, everyone, please welcome Beau Hufford.
Thanks for having me.
So-
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this, man. This is awesome. So yeah, like seriously though, you're all like, I'm like thinking like, what is it like? What, there's not one thing that you do. I mean, you're like, what was a day consist in your life besides drinking all day long?
Clearly.
Yeah.
It's a good question, and it's hard to answer because, and what I have to do is pick one thing. When I'm out and meeting new people, that's the worst because you don't want to sound like a complete and utter prick. You don't want to sound like you're some egomaniacal ass. You're like, oh, so what do you do? And you go, well, and I just have to say I'm an artist. I just say that. But the truth is like I'm constantly dabbling in things that just excite me. And so that can include, I started as a caricature artist. That's what I did for a long time. That turned into management. And through that course, I just started realizing like, I want to go do my own thing because I want to do more than just caricatures, especially because I looked around the room and, like in any profession, in any art form, you kind of have to look around the room and say, do I want it as bad as these people, And I had to be honest, like I didn't want to be the greatest caricature artist of all time. So I started to shift my goals into like, well, what do I want? I want to like experience every aspect. I want to get into film. I want to get into storytelling. I want to get into comedy. I want to get into, different types of design and art. So I just started doing that. And it all kind of started with the live art business that I do with my business partner, Stephen Fishwick, who's a great artist in his own right. And so I started doing like art at corporate and private events. And that allowed me financial stability to then go do other things. So that's where it started anyway.
Yeah. And what kind of art do you do when you do that? Like what like, 'cause I know what he does.
So,
Is
sure.
it similar?
So for example, like let's say you're Apple, the company, and you're like going to have a private party for all of your employees. You might hire someone like me to come in and do a live painting that isn't like I'm not on stage dancing or revealing things like that. It's like I might do an interactive painting where I invite your customers or your employees up to like help me paint a painting. And in the end, over the course of 3 hours, we've sculpted this amazing like 4 foot by 6 foot painting that they get to keep. And they're like, how did we do that? And they, people come and go, oh, I did that little mark. It's very much like a corporate thing, but people love it. And San Diego is a destination city, so a lot of people come here for conventions. And so sort of like not fish in a barrel, but sort of like we've been working with these people for so long, different event planners. And so that's we just saw a market for that. So we do that. I'm like, I paint surfboards and do graffiti walls. And so that kind of stuff. It's like a corporation is like, oh, we're hip. Let's have a graffiti wall. And I'll go, do some spray paint and they'll be like, wow, we're so cool. And so, but that offers me the freedom to make a lot of money in a short amount of time and then have all this other time to be creating whatever I want to do. You know? So it's definitely a feast or famine situation. I know you know that too, where it's like, every day is a new adventure. And they always say like, oh, it must be so great to own your own business. Like it is, but like at any moment in time, you drop everything because the money is there today and it's not going to be there tomorrow. And so that can be a little bit of a struggle there. Yeah. Or has been in the past.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, I totally relate because just in general with you being involved with so many different things. Cause like, it's funny what you said about the caricature thing. Like, you're looking around like, do I want to be the greatest caricature artist in the world? It's funny. Cause the way I always looked at that is, it was basically like, I want to be the best there is, so that not because I want to be cool with the caricature artists, because I want to pay for dinner for my family. Like I always had like this goal, like, no, I have to be the best that I can possibly be. I have to keep pushing those levels because I want those covers. I want, I want to compete with CF Payne and all that kind of stuff. I never went to those conventions and really thought about the other caricature artists. Really, it was more just about me all the time. Me.
Yeah, I know. I know that about you, Jason. No.
I'm a selfish person.
I don't mean that to sound like that because I looked around the room and someone was better than me. Yeah. It was more that like, way back when, I don't know if you know this, but like I found or hired Joe Bloom, who was in the caricature community, kind of a big deal at the time, and he still is. But like, I remember sitting with him in my house every day, drawing together. Yeah. And I would be drawing and doing my thing, and I'd look over and I'd be like, oh, what the fuck, dude? Like, you're like destroying it over there. And I had to sort of like mentally tell myself, like, I have my own thing and that's great. I have my own style. But at the end of the day, even though I enjoy this is not what I want to do the rest of my life. And that doesn't mean that anybody who does do that for their life is less than me. I'm just saying, like, I looked at him and he was almost possessed by the pencil. It's just like boom, 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 every day, drawing all the time. And I was like, I want to be this artist that I'm going to be, but I also kind of at that time felt like it was a 9 to 5 a little bit. Like I still wanted to have a balance of work life. And I think sometimes the best artists don't have that balance. They're just possessed. Yeah. And they just go for that one thing and they get so good at it. But at the end of the day, I was like, yeah, but I want to go see a movie and I want to go do this thing and I want to have a girlfriend and, all that kind of stuff. And it was like, it didn't seem realistic. And so, that's what I kind of meant by like, you have to look around the room sometimes.
I think, well, the next part to what I was going to say is that I relate to not being settled with just one thing, you know,
Sure.
like even for me, like I want to do more than caricature with my art. I more like I've branched more into like illustration or portrait work or whatever. And I'm actually doing something really cool right now with Joe Bloom, but I can't really talk about it. And it's something that's
nice dick tease.
Yeah, but it's nice to be able to like branch into different types of art, you know, and be open to that. But then also even like with the comedy thing, like that for me is like an extra muscle now that I'm absolutely obsessed with, and I can't stop thinking about it. And it's funny because I've realized, you know, I've kind of always been a comedian in a way, in my mind anyways. And now that I'm doing it, it's just all it is an extension of who I am as an artist. It's not like, oh, now you're doing that. It's like, no, it's still my art. It's just a different way of expressing my art. But you know, I relate that way where I want to, like, you know, it's like, why do the podcast or I do this? It's like, I want to keep, how many branches can I create here? But also,
yeah, absolutely,
it's also that hustle life where, you know, you don't know when the next door is going to open, right? So you got to keep pushing and like, it's all a hustle, man. Doors
absolutely.
open, walk through it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think for me, it's like, I have to stay in motion. I have to stay busy. You know, I really enjoy having things to do all day long, you know, sort of like whether that be recording or setting up meetings or doing something like where it's like, oh, that's an exciting idea. Let's like, what could this be? You know? So I try to make every project that I do. Well, one, I always want to be the person that people look at and go, wow, he thought of everything on this project. You know, he thought of everything, even if it was like in the creation of this bar. It's like, I want people to come here and go like, wow, every detail is here. Like I have an ice stamp and I have hotel keychains from like vintage looking keychains with the logo on. It's like, I like that kind of thing where it's like nobody ever says like, oh, you know what you should do? Because it's like, I already thought of that. Yeah. I already thought of it. I like that idea. So I try to do that with all my projects.
One thing I'm a little jealous about with your art though is that you also, I feel trapped sometimes because I don't feel like I have a graphic design. I mean, I do some graphic design type stuff every once in a while where I need to for something, but it's not something that I am, it's not like my thing, you know? And there's a lot of times where I have to like ask friends of mine or whatever, like help me with this. I need a logo for this, whatever. And that's one thing I like about like your stuff is you have like, you got that branding thing down, you know what I mean? Where there's like a, and like even with your comedy posters and everything, it's like, man, that's so cool. And I love that too, because comedy posters they usually are just, they're all the same basically, and they don't really stand out. I did a poster recently for a show that I did, that I produced or whatever. And I did caricatures of all the comics, but like really realistic caricatures. And I'm never going to do it again. I did it because I was trying to make a poster to like separate from all the other comic shows, which it did, but it was a lot of work because everyone was a full on painting. And then most of the people didn't even appreciate it. They're like, oh, I just thought that was like some kind of distorted picture, you know? And I was like, fuck.
That's how good it is, right?
Yeah, I'm not doing that again. I'm gonna just like, you know,
but yours saw that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was going to say that, but yours are like really graphic and, you know, it doesn't, not like putting it down that it doesn't seem like it took as much time, but you can do it quicker in that style and that technique. And that's not my aesthetic, you know, and I'm like mad about that.
Well, I would say that like, when thinking about a poster, or you know, you have to think about it like a billboard, right? Yeah. And you're driving 65 miles down the highway, you have a split seconds to see something and have it grab you. And when I look at the world of posters, especially in comedy, it's all the same. It's absolutely all the same. It's like it's like 5 people's photos in some capacity, and then it says, you know, comedy or laugh laugh or chuck chuck, you know, some little like funny thing. And it's like, when I came into the comedy scene, the truth was, at the time, only comedy clubs were really doing comedy. There'd be like an offshoot of like little rooms here and there. But I was like, I want to kind of shake up the comedy world in San Diego. We're so close to Los Angeles with all this great talent. San Diego has some great comics. And I was like, but what I don't want to do is be like everybody else. And so I started making posters based on little dreams that I had, or little ideas, or sometimes it's just nonsensical shit, but it's like bold. And it's more about like, my goal every time I make a poster is like, I want someone to steal this. I want them to think this is so cool, so graphic and fun, and like a concert poster. I want someone to steal it. That to me is the greatest compliment. And so every time I do a poster, I'm like inspired by, you know, whatever. I saw a rotting banana on the side of the street. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna make that into a poster and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, the other thing I did is I didn't just call it stand-up comedy. I branded it as, but we kind of created a company, me and my business partner in the comedy world, Daniel. And we decided, like, he was doing this small show in the back of like a brewery, and it was just called stand-up comedy on Wednesday or something like that, or on Tuesday. And I was like, let's call this something different. Let's actually come up with a name of what this company is. So we started calling it Riff City, you know, because in many ways comedians are riffing, and that's like a really exciting time. Let's call it Riff City. So it's not just stand-up comedy, it's Riff City comedy. And that way we put on a great show, people see that logo, that consistency, you know, people will keep seeing and go, oh, these guys are great. They do a great job. I mean, the deal there is, though, you got to do a great job. You got to put on a good show, because the minute you do a shitty show, then people go, Riff City comedy is kind of garbage, you know? So I started just making posters that were fun and were bold and had nothing to do with the individual comic, and not because I didn't want to put them on there, but a lot of times the truth is comics drop out last minute. They'll be like, oh, something came up, or I got an opportunity to be on a Netflix show. Well, yeah, I totally get that. I want the comic to succeed. So it's like, go be on that Netflix show. But then if I produce the show based on who's coming and then they don't come, people are going to be a little let down, you know?
Oh man.
So
so I'm just getting into producing my own shows now. And the first one was a huge success, totally sold out. I got this amazing venue. They have like really, really nice, pretty big bands that play there every weekend, and it looks like a speakeasy. It's just really awesome. They treat you really well. I worked out a deal where every comic gets paid, and I worked out a deal for the headliner, and so everyone's happy, right? Because a lot of shows you make shit, right?
I think that's the common misconception is that comics make money at every show, and a lot of times people are just donating their time trying to get themselves out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I feel the same way as you. I wanted to pay everybody as well.
Yeah, that's the thing about every show that I do. Everyone's getting paid. You're getting paid to do the show, and then but my first show, my headliner, like a few weeks before, was like, basically something else came up that was really cool. He can't do it anymore, and he was wanting to switch. Can we just switch the night from Saturday to Friday? And I'm like, no. I try to explain him. I'm like, I'm not doing this in my basement or my garage. This is a real venue.
I'm getting a venue. Yeah.
And it's booked. Every day is booked. And he was like trying to see if I could switch it anyways. And I just told him, I said, look, I'll just get someone else. You know, I'm offering you $500 or whatever. No, it was whatever it was. I can't remember now. But like, I'll just get someone else. They'll be happy to do it. And I'm not going to switch because the other 4 or 5 comics committed as well. And that's going to screw up their whole night. So, luckily he was like, I'll do it. And then he murdered. He absolutely murdered. So it was a great show. And, but for a minute there, I'm like, oh no, is this what it's going to be like? But
it is.
Yeah.
It is what it's going to be like. Yeah. That's the problem.
But I got the next one booked in April with the same venue, and I'm excited because I think, you know, they told me that it's one of the best shows they've had at their venue, and they're really pumped, and they want to they want to raise the price at the door for the show, and hopefully I'm hoping it'll be a monthly thing, you know, eventually. But
that's
I'm
what we do.
I'm digging it.
we've been doing the show. So it started out as one show in like a local bar that, again, nothing was really being done outside of comedy clubs. And I knew the owner of this really great, like sort of like locally world famous bar, right? Kind of a dive, but like a good dive. But the capacity of seating was like 200. And so I was like, you know, the owner was kind of like, I went to him, I said, hey, I'm looking to do a comedy night. And he's like, oh yeah, comedy doesn't work in the bar. It just doesn't work. And kind of like prepared me to, he's like, listen, I like you and I'll give you the show. I'll let you have this one night, do what you can, but like, don't expect anything. It just doesn't work here. But what I don't, that's probably what happened before, because a lot of times shows are run by comedians, and sometimes comedians can't manage things, they just love comedy.
Yeah.
And so this is where I think I succeed, is that I'm not a stand-up comic. I love comedy and I know what comedy is good, what makes it good, but I can manage things. So yeah. And that also makes me a threat in the world of comedy, and I only say threat because it makes me a threat that if you're a comedian running a show, then everybody wants to, like, they want to be on your show. And then if you get on their show, then you have to pay them sort of a kindness to get them on your show. So it's almost like this balance, right?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to produce a really good show when everyone thinks that you owe them a favor. That's a problem, So I only say that I'm a threat because, like, nobody's can give me anything. I'm just like, you want to be on my show? Great. You're not going to help me out other than I'm going to pay you to be on this show. So anyway, the first night we did the comedy at this bar, I got Eric Griffin from Workaholics.
Yeah.
And we packed out the fucking house. Like, that was the only time we put like Eric Griffin is coming. And it was just like sold out, and the bar was understaffed and they were totally fucked. And the owner's like, the owner like called me the next day. Was like, I guess we need to talk a little bit more about comedy. And ever since then, that was like 4 years ago, we've been doing the show every single month.
It has a stage, like do they do like live bands there and stuff, or?
They have all types of crazy events. Sometimes it's a live music event. It's actually we built our own stage and we bring it at every show.
Sorry, I got a freaking gnat in here and it's pissing me off. Sorry.
I was gonna say we built our own stage, and it's literally the silliest stage. It's like a 4 foot by 4 foot piece of plywood, like up like 4 inches, and every comic kind of like punks on it a little bit, which I love. I get the biggest kick out of that. But then at the end of every show, it's got our logo on it. At the end of every show, every headliner signs the stage.
Yeah.
So I've got like 4 years of really amazing comics, a little bit of history there, which I like that.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, that's cool. No, it's so cool, man. I love that. I remember even years before I started getting into this, I've always wanted to do it. And I remember like being so like envious of you being involved in comedy, and I had so many questions, like, and I didn't know if you were doing comedy or not. But then,
sure,
like, I think I actually recently saw you with Monterey. Martinez, yes. So that's weird. I just met her, like, I think in the summertime. She did I did a guest spot with Steve Byrne, and she was the feature, and she was so cool, man. So it's just kind of cool, like, to like now have that connection, because I remember like I said, years ago, I don't remember where we were. I think we were at Court Jones' house, maybe something like that, a long time ago, and you were talking all about comedy shit, and I was like, man, because that's how long I've been wanting to do it. So it's so cool that like you put on like a lot of different shows though, right? Because so currently I have 2 shows a month, and I pick Wednesday for the show because a lot of times things are booked out on Saturdays, and so I ask the bars, like, what's your worst day of the week or the month? And without fail, everyone's like, Wednesdays are the worst. And I'm like, okay, so if I brought in 200 additional people to your bar on a Wednesday when you don't get anybody, like, that makes me look better. I mean, that makes Riff City look better. And so I've actually got deals with both bars where they pay me to bring the comedy there. Then I make all of the door. So it's like highly profitable to do it that way. But it's hard to get there because you have to prove yourself to say, I can bring people. You are going to make that money at the bar, because they're making thousands of dollars at the bar. So I take the full door.
handle everything. And so I have 2 shows now at 2 different locations, and then I'll do offshoots. Like I've always wanted to do this thing, like growing up watching like Frank Sinatra. He used to do his concerts, but then he'd have a band, and then he'd do a little bit of comedy in between, right? And then he'd just kind of break into the song. And I was like, I really wanted to mesh, like I love jazz music, and I wanted to mesh jazz and comedy. And so I started jazz comedy nights, and it was like a special one-night thing, maybe in a different location. It was a higher ticket price, but I had a full jazz band, and then the comics would all, do their sets while the jazz is still playing. So the jazz, it would be very improvisational. So the jazz is happening.
That's awesome.
And the comic might say like, hey, why don't you give me my girl just broke up with me bass line. And they're like, doom, 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 doom. It's like, and then he tells a story, and there's something so
pretty
exciting.
Awesome,
something exciting about that improvisation. And so we've had a couple comics that just like destroyed because everything came together at the right time. And it's almost like the doom, doom. It was like everything is working. And it's like,
that's
I remember
cool.
Chris Fairbanks, one of the comics, he came down and he did this whole bit where he's like a white person doing reggae. And it was like, it just was unbelievable to watch in person. It was pure magic. So I like doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. That's so cool. What kind of stuff do you do for promotion wise besides posters? Like, is it mostly online stuff, or do you?
Yeah,
like,
no, we do mostly, we've got that following going on now. And I'm in the gravy spot, and I'm sure you're going to get there soon, which is you put out good shows, you set up those lineups to where they work for each other. The comics work for each other in that way. That's like, this leads into that. You don't throw anybody to the wolves too much. You know what I mean? So you kind of try to make that lineup work for everybody. And then people just said, oh, wow, this is a great show. I'm going to come back next month. And then the word of mouth keeps going. And then the bar, because it is that locally world famous kind of thing, we have posters up there and people go, oh, wow, stand comedy here in this area. That's great. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
just
awesome.
pretty much Instagram and posters.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's funny because I wasn't sure how my first show was going to go, but I had a feeling it would be pretty good because I knew the location and they do well in it's a smaller town. It's like outside of Chicago. But it's a sweet spot, and I've been there several times for bands, and it's always packed. I'm like, dude, they don't ever have comedy here. This would be perfect. I can bring some Chicago comics to this place. And because I'm doing comedy, I'm making
hungry.
a lot of,
they're hungry out there. They want this entertainment. They don't want to go to the city sometimes.
Exactly.
So you're bringing the city to them, and that's so exciting. And that's it. I bring LA comics down all the time, and people are like, I don't have to go to LA, which is only 2.5 hours, but it's like, it's a whole ordeal,
I'm surprised that just from the first show, I've had several comics from outside of Chicago, like some from Milwaukee and Detroit area. Oh, I lost you. Are you there?
Yeah, hold on a second. There we go. Sorry about that.
All right. But I've had comics from those different places already, like writing me like, hey, I heard good things about that show. I'd love to be on. I'm like, what the heck? But it's, the next one I'm planning to do a showcase. So instead of a headliner, the last 2 comics are going to do like 20. But the comics before are going to do maybe 10 or something like that. But I want to have more of a variety for the next show. But anyways, the whole reason I even wanted to bring it up is just like, I like that about you. I can relate to that, having your fingers in lots of different puddings, as Bill Cosby would say.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Lots of puddings.
Too many puddings.
Too many puddings. Yeah. But I also feel like you could probably relate to, like, I don't know how not to do that. Right. Like you can't.
Absolutely.
It's like, you can't, it can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes, but and like right now I'm working on deadlines. I have some crazy deadlines. But at the same time, I can't stop writing. So like, I'm like, I'll be working on trying to get this painting done on time, but then I'm like, oh shit, I got this idea and I have to stop and start writing. If I
Oh
don't,
yeah.
that idea is going to be gone. And then I'm,
Yeah, that's the wind. And
yeah.
that wind goes by. You gotta run with it.
But have you ever tried doing
Comedy?
Yeah. Have you?
Okay, so
God.
here's how it kind of got started. Is that I was working on a TV show here in San Diego on the CW called Tonight in San Diego, which is like essentially a Tonight Show but like local.
Mhm.
And so I was in the background, sort of writing comedy or writing like little stories, jokes, things like that. And then also I was in charge of all the short films. So essentially like the SNL shorts, only on a much smaller stage, right? And so I had written a couple, and I was just kind of thrown in there. Like they were like, it was one of those things. Like, have you ever seen that documentary on the Dana Carvey show where they're just
Oh
like,
yeah, I love it.
I love that. That's one of my favorite things because it's like, yeah, it's this moment where people were just doing shit, just trying, just throwing it at the wall and seeing what happens, you know?
Mhm.
And I was able to do whatever I wanted on this show. And so I made like 3 or 4 films that were like absolutely insanity, like cartoon brain sort of ideas.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to get the confidence to go, yeah, you know what? I just made something and it made people laugh and it was on TV. Like, what the fuck? I should be doing something here. And so when that show ended, I was like, I'm gonna try comedy. So I did improv classes, and I really enjoyed improv class. But I didn't find myself wanting to continue in the world of improv. There are those people that just go, and now I am an improv person, and I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
And so the thing about so I decided, like, I'm going to produce this comedy show. I want to learn more about stand-up comedy in a real way, and I'm going to work on my set, my bits. And then I started doing it. I was like, oh man, the background of a comedian's life that people don't see is fucking insane. And I realized, like, so many of my comedian friends, so many of the people that I know that are in comedy are hyper insecure, are super touchy. Their lives are messes. It's like, and I'm not saying that about you or any specific person.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
no, I know.
It just seems like it takes a real crazy person, you know, to do this thing. It really does. And so I was like, I think, for lack of a better way of describing this, it's like, I think I'm too put together to be a comic, because I'd have to like give
You're not
everything
fucked up
up.
enough.
Yeah, I'd have to give everything up to attack this correctly, and I don't think I have it in me.
Yeah.
I like comedy, but I don't think I can be a comedian. And I think I know you know a lot of comics. Isn't that kind of true?
No, it's very true, and I'm surprised many of them even can make it so consistently to mics and stuff. Like you remembered to like put pants on today.
Yeah,
like
yes.
I'm surprised because I'm 44, and you know, I got in this late in the game, but I feel like in a way I have an advantage. I've been doing very well with my comedy. You know, there's always times where it's like, oh, that was terrible, but for the most part, I've been doing really well, and I think it's because I've got life experience. I've gone through a lot of terrible things by this point.
Right.
And I've got 4 daughters. I mean, there's a lot of things I've experienced where these young 22, 24-year-olds, they don't know anything, but they're really good. Some of them are really good and really funny, and I'm like, you're going to be really great. I don't have much time left, so
don't say that. Don't say that.
So I take it really serious. Like I'm hitting it hard. I'm working hard on it, and but yeah, it's funny, like talking with some of these guys, these young guys, and just their perspective on things. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna start writing bits about you guys. Like,
yeah.
That's what's gonna start happening. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I think I am that kind of crazy in a way, but I'm lucky enough to have stability where I have a family. I got a house, I got a wife, I got kids. And you know, but I also relate to that insanity part because I can't ever stop. My mind doesn't stop.
Sure.
And you know, my wife's always like, maybe this is good for you because you typically say things in public that you probably shouldn't say, and it just comes out. And I'm like, I wish we could put that back in there and pretend it never happened. But now you can do it on a stage, and it's like,
right. It's completely different.
Yeah. So for me, it's almost like, I mean, a lot of comics say this, but it's kind of therapeutic, you know. And I love the groans as much as the laughs. You know what I mean?
I think that's a really important thing is like, I think the best comics are the ones that are able to take when something isn't working and make that funny too.
Yeah.
Like, I love when a comic is like, okay, well, that one wasn't for you. Let's move on. And then everyone laughs. It's like, okay, he tried something, it didn't work. I think the other thing that makes me feel like a lot of people don't think about this. A comedian, typically, unless you're just doing storytelling and you change your story every night, you're repeating the same joke over and over again, perfecting and sort of like whittling that piece of wood down to its perfect shape, right? With the right words, the right time, and that kind of thing. And to me, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in telling the same joke over and over again. I'm interested in being funny in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I'm more of a comedy writer than I am a comedy teller, like a joke teller.
Mhm.
Because if I create a short film that's funny, really that joke is only being said 1, 2, maybe however many takes it takes to get it right. And then it's out there, it's in the world.
Yeah.
But I'm not repeating it on the road, 250 days a year kind of thing. Because I saw, you know who I saw? Pete Holmes. I went and saw Pete Holmes.
I love Pete Holmes.
He's great. But he popped in as like just a pop in for the show of a guy that I really love, Ian Abramson. If you don't know him, you should check him out. He's unbelievable. And he popped in, he did the set, but it was funny. I was watching Pete Holmes with this intensity of like, he's funny, but he's laughing at his own jokes. Like when you say something, you're like, I can't believe this is going on. Isn't that crazy? And you're like, yeah, but I know you've already told this joke because I saw you tell this joke before. You're an insane person. You have insanity in your brain because you got to try to act like you're laughing honestly at your own thing, but you're doing that every night. And that seems like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
There's times where I do that sometimes just because everyone else is laughing, so I start laughing with them because what I just said is so ridiculous, and so I understand how ridiculous the thing I just said is, and it's almost like an uncomfortableness. That's why I start laughing sometimes. But it is interesting we bring this up because like when you're in between shows, comics do mics all the time because you're trying to work out ideas, whatever,
right.
and you start to know all these different comics and you see each other at all these different mics and you start becoming friends and whatever else. And then you're like, you see, oh, I've seen this. I know exactly what his bits are going to be. I know this and that. You see it over and over and over again. But other people don't realize that's what it takes in order to do it. You have to. And then you start to notice, oh, like for example, Wednesday night, Tuesday night, I tried out some brand new stuff and I ate a bag of dicks. Like it didn't, and I felt so frustrated because I know there's something funny there in what I was talking about. And all the next day, I can't stop thinking about it. And then I completely rewrote, threw away half the stuff. Just this part is funny. All the other stuff was a waste. Why is this part funny? And then I just kept going over and over it. Wednesday night, I went up and I killed. And the best part about it was not just killing and having a great set, is afterwards when all the comics come up and they go, dude, like last night they totally sucked, and all of a sudden now it's like you got something. It was like, that was great. It was amazing to see. And I was like, oh, that feels good. It's like a relief. It's like like I was redeemed because of how bad I was talking with one of my comic friends. It's like makeup sex. Like, it's like it felt so good to like fix that.
I think it's like if you think about a car, if you take all the parts and pieces out of the engine and place them in a different way, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But just that perfect way of structuring something, it becomes an engine and it runs. And it's like you think about it like that, and it's like, oh yeah, I've got the parts here. But
exactly.
Sometimes you gotta throw the car away. I mean,
exactly.
Just because a joke's not working doesn't mean it can. It might just be dead.
Exactly.
And that's another thing.
Yeah, I like, for example, I have this idea that I think is kind of funny, and it worked like last week at a different place, but it halfway worked. And then Tuesday night I tried it again and it didn't work at all. And so I scrap that for now, but I'm going to think about it some more. But basically I'm trying to compare what it was like working at Taco Bell to pedophilia in the Catholic Church. Like it's very similar, you know, those two things, right? So I just think it's so funny how you would never think that those two things should be together in a sentence, but the uncomfortableness of it attracts me. And like, you know, trying to compare what priests do to working at Taco Bell. But it's weird because I know there is something in the actual bit, but it's just, I'm like, I'm going to let it get some mold. I'm going to let it sit for a little bit and then come back to it later. I got a lot of stuff like that. Like,
you know, I think also the other factor that, you know, you need to think about is that the audience matters. It's like who that audience is.
Oh,
really
yeah.
Matter.
Yeah.
You know, and so the best comics understand that. And when they feel the crowd, they shift and go over here on, you know, maybe it's like, oh, this crowd doesn't really like the nasty shit that I'm saying. So I'm going to do some clean work. And then I got them, you know?
Yeah.
I remember there was a moment.
That's true.
I had a jazz comedy night and Brian Simpson was the headliner. And I love Brian Simpson. I think he's a genius. He came, and if you don't know him, he's like, you know, he's probably like in his late 30s or I think he's late 30s, a black guy. And I had the jazz show. Well, when I do the jazz show, like I said before, it's kind of a higher ticket price. It was like $50 a ticket. Okay. But there's jazz and it's kind of a dress up event. We're all wearing shirts and ties. We try to do this thing. And we had Brian Simpson down, and I didn't really think about this, but I was like, oh, fuck, we're in downtown San Diego, which is not really a cultural mecca. And I have Brian Simpson headlining, a $50 price ticket. Everyone was like between 40 and 60 years old and white. And I know Brian's set. And I was like, oh no, I've made a horrible mistake. Like I was thinking in my mind, I was like, jazz, Brian Simpson, comedy, I'm in. And I was so like in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm a little worried. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like the awkward moments too. It's like, but let's see what happens. Brian came out, and literally like within 30 seconds to a minute, the crowd was just like licking his balls. It was just like unbelievable. And I felt like I was watching magic happen, because what Brian did is he brought comedy. He didn't change his comedy necessarily. He just used the comedy he had for the crowd that was there. And it was explosive. I couldn't believe how good it was. And I was like, this guy is unbelievable. And to watch that happen and see it and know what's happening in the moment, it's like, I got a little bit of chills in me, because I was like, this is really good.
That's the thing too. That's why I think why I'm drawn to it so much is it's like just like how I have, you know, become successful with my art. You don't, you know, being an artist is it's really hard, you know, especially trying to make a living at it. It's very challenging, and you have to be very passionate. You have to put up with a lot of crap. You have to put up with a lot of failure, a lot of struggle. Most people don't last. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And to me, comedy is the same thing. Absolutely. Like I feel like it's like you know, but it's a challenge to me right now in my life where I'm like, this is, I like this challenge. I like that I liked the struggle, because it's making me think differently and, you know, work harder and, you know.
Well, also, you already figured out the thing you're doing with art. Like, you already have it down. I think, like, when I see that you, like, oh, I got this commission today, it was due in 3 hours. And it's like, well, now it's the time cover. It's like, I want to be like, good for you, dude. Also, fuck you, because you got it down. You got it down. But that probably, for lack of a better, and I could be completely right, it probably bores you a little bit to know that you have that down. You're looking for that next thing that you're like, might not be good at, but let me win at that now. You have that like passion for, I don't know. I don't know if it's ego, but like, I would say it's probably something that's like, I need to prove this to myself and the world that I can do this sort of thing.
I mean, that's probably a little bit of truth to that. I mean, everyone that does stand up is a little bit narcissistic, I guess.
For sure.
We want to get up there in front. You listen to me now, but yeah, I think really what it is it's just a challenge. I mean, ever since I was a kid, like I've loved like Bill. When I first saw Bill Cosby when I was a kid, I still, obviously he's a little taboo right now, right?
Yeah.
But I still think he's a great comic, and his comedy changed things, and it like for me as a kid, I remember just walking around the house all the time going, fire, fighter, in my baba libre on the floor, I was just doing all these things all the time, and like, repeating just a bunch of his bits. And
for sure, I would say Daddy is great. He gave us chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly. I'm Jeffrey, I'm 4 years old, but like, yeah, so it's always been there. It's always been something, and then like even when I was in bands and I would tour, and I started making jokes on stage. My band members would be like, like hurry. Like I was telling someone recently about this, like as soon as someone's guitar was out of tune, and they're having to stop and tune in between songs, they'd start tuning faster because like, oh no, Jason's on the mic, because I'd have to say something because I couldn't stand that there was just like nothing happening,
Yeah.
But anyways, I love it, man, and I just think it's so cool with the things that you're doing with it. It's really awesome, man.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Now, let's see, we got like maybe 15 minutes left because I got to get back to my deadlines.
Shit.
But what's been new lately though with as far as your drawing and that sort of a thing? Like what kind of things have you been doing new or just challenging yourself with?
That's a good question. I've really been full on focusing on branding and identity packages for like small companies, and haven't been drawing in the same way, like, not in the design, like cartoonish style as much. But I've been rebranding, and that's where there's something about the psychology of branding that really gets me excited.
Yeah.
Thinking about why something is, how we can create something to make people feel a different way, how we can package a company that might not have, we're not talking about Nike and Coca-Cola. We're talking about like the ice cream shop down the street that's like, we're just struggling, and we have our cousin made this logo, and I'm like, let's do that. Let's rebrand you and make you look like something bigger,
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
I really like creating that. I've always thought like if I could be in anything other than what I have been doing, I would have gone into advertising. But then I hate the idea of advertising when it's not a product that you like. If there's a product you don't believe in, like I don't want to lie to people. So it's like I always kind of like struggle with the creativity and commerce, a little bit in that way. And it's like advertising in a sense in many forms is kind of a lie because everyone's going to tell you their product's the best. But that's not true, and everybody knows it's not true. When Asus Computers says like our computers are the best, no they're not. Like you're just, and the person who has to sell that advertisement, the person who's up to like pitch that is like, okay, well, what can we say? Because like we're not Apple, we're not whatever,
Yeah.
So, but I like that, the idea of being able to do that in a contained space for a small company. So what I've been working on lately is just doing that. And it pays a lot more for me, that's just the truth. Is like, that's why my comedy posters are something I get to do, that I can just do whatever the hell I want. Nobody tells me what to do. I'm in charge. So I just do it. But yeah, I love branding companies, especially when a company's listening,
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm sure like it's, as an artist, it's hard for me to like watch, like sometimes I'll watch a movie and I realize I missed so many things in that movie because I was lost in, like, have you seen the new Dune?
I haven't seen it.
All right.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't tell you what that movie's about. Because I only watched it once and it was visually so amazing.
So
like
rich,
every single shot in that movie could be like it's like work on literally a work of art, every single shot. And I realized after watching that movie that I was just looking at this movie because it was so over. But then there's times when I watch something where it's so terrible that I'm distracted that I can't watch the movie. Like I guess what I was wondering is like with you doing design of different things there. I mean, I noticed like products that just look so terrible that I can't believe are out there, but I'm sure you're walking around all the time. Like what the, you want to change like street signs. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah. And I'm like a font hound. Like I love fonts. I just love like hand lettering and that kind of thing. And so when I see a product using like, God, I forget what it's called. It's like something cowboy. There's a font and it's all like scripty and it's stupid. And it's like so many products use it like it's their brand. And it's like, that's just a font. And it's a specific font that if one person uses it, everyone just looks like the same company. And so like, I get mad about that. I also get mad because I'm like, I wish generic products could have better branding. And I was like, why does the shitty cereal in the 5-pound bags have to have the worst drawings on it?
Yeah.
I want to call,
or they're just a white bag.
yeah. It's like, you couldn't, it's the same to print, but if you have a 2-color print, I can make you a better 2-color print. It's like, I get mad about that. But then I also think there's a psychology behind like when something looks cheap, people think it is cheap. And then if you're a cheap person, that's what you're going to grab. If it looks expensive, you're going to think I can't afford that. And so you just skip it. And so there's a whole psychology there.
That's
true. love that. I love that idea.
Yeah.
I love knowing that kind of stuff,
Yeah, that's true. Like that's that's pretty funny. That's an interesting way to think about it. I mean, it's just last weekend, we wanted to take my 4-year-old daughter to, the idea was to take her to, do you know what Dave and Buster's is? Dave and Buster's?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So we were like, it'd be fun to take her to a game place like that. She's never seen anything like that before. But then someone told us, there's this other place called something Castle. I don't remember exactly what it's called. Like, but it's way cooler, and it looks like a castle and all this kind of stuff. And so we basically, it's sort of even closer to us. We're like, we'll take her there. We walk in and it looked like hasn't been updated since the 70s, and it just everything about it just had like this and I was turned off by the like what you said, the font, like when you walk in, just the writing was so terrible that I'm like, this place cannot have quality anything. And then my wife wanted to eat lunch first before we did the games, and we walked through everything and looked like it's okay games, but then we get to the food section, and again, like this medieval like cheesy theme, and I was like, let's go somewhere else. Just because it looked that way, and we ended up going to Dave and Buster's, and it was pretty awesome. But
there is that
I changed the baby, chased the baby the whole time while they played games. But
there is this mentality. It's like there are people that go like, Dave and Buster's is just too expensive for me. I can't take my whole family there. Yeah. And so they go to the Magic Castle or whatever that place is, and it looks like a strip club with the lights turned on, and it's like awful, but like it's still like, there is a place for everybody, but I think most people want to believe that they belong in the better place. But when you have a family and you're week to week in it, you might have to go to the Coin Castle or whatever.
Yeah, just work on the font.
Yeah, can you just get somebody? Don't you have a cousin? That's what I hate the most about like in design. Somebody's like, we have somebody, an uncle or somebody that does design. It's like, no, you don't. And if you do, they're probably not that good, to be honest.
Well, I mean, when you clearly have a good sense for design from what you did with your bar there,
Well, thanks.
It's funny. I was just watching this show, all these these house hunter shows are like Fixer Upper House. There's so many of these shows now. It's insane. But Chris, this Stanafio, or whatever, how do you fucking say his last name? You know who I'm talking about, right? That comedian.
I think so.
He's from New York. Hilarious comedian. I'm blanking on how to say his last name the right way, but he's on a show I just found on HBO, I think HBO Max, but it's similar to those Fixer Upper shows, but it's actually funny. And what they do is they find two best friends, and they basically fix up their backyard or their garage into like the coolest bar.
Oh, nice.
And so it's like what you have here, like, and they compete and they win, like whoever wins like 25 grand or something like that.
Well, and, what was I doing? I should have been, come on.
Yeah. But that's what the whole, and then part of the thing is they have to win points they have to have their own signature drink, and all that kind of stuff. What's your signature drink? You got one?
Hold on, I'm going to show you something. Okay.
All right.
I've got a menu. So if you come to the bar, there's a menu.
That's so
It's
awesome.
all fully illustrated. So my signature drink is actually the Sneaky Crow. So it's a coffee liqueur, whiskey. It's essentially like an old fashioned,
Dude,
but it's got coffee liqueur.
that is, you've got like your own little bar there. That's amazing. You even got the
Yeah.
menu. It's like, that's pretty sweet, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I love having, I never tell any of my friends. Well, now they know, but like I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. So when
Yeah.
they got here, I was like, oh, you want to come over for a drink? New people in my life, like, want to come over for a drink? You know, when you go over to a friend's house, just
They'll be
whatever.
like, what the?
But then I open it and people's like, what? You know, they lose their shit. And then, you know,
What's this
but-
about? A drink.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's
when you say a drink, you mean many a drink?
Many
Yeah.
drinks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the main problem.
Man, we didn't even touch base on you also do podcasts, like, you know, and you dabble in that and you're pretty damn good at it, obviously.
Yeah, I started a podcast media company called Shit Show Media. We have 3 podcasts. One is called Campfire Shit Show, and it's me and a co-host, essentially just having guests on and talking about those shit show moments. I felt like in the world, there's way too much of this, like, my life looks great. Look at me on Instagram. I'm traveling. I'm rich. I'm famous. I have the perfect family. It's like, let's talk about the opposite of that. So I do that. So that's Campfire Shit Show without the I, because Apple doesn't allow you to have any, you know, bad words actually. So it's SHT. And then I have one with my business partner's daughter, who's 17. And it's called Stuff I Can't Tell My Parents. And it's just, she's asking me, I'm 46 years old. She's asking me all the questions that she can't comfortably ask her parents.
Oh
And that podcast
this
is really
podcast
amazing.
does not sound appropriate, but I like it.
I think you should check it out.
She's
because
17. I'm 46.
Yeah.
She's
I know,
asking me things that she like.
know,
What is clitoris?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me show you on the doll. No, I think it's a great conversation that I think parents want to know what kids are thinking. I think kids want to know what parents are thinking. But then there's this disconnect where it's like, you don't want to talk to your mom about blowjobs. You don't want to talk to them about drugs or getting wasted. It's like, I'm sure some kids talk to their parents about that, and that's fine. But I think a lot of people are like, I don't really want to ask that question to my mom, you know? So we sort of go into it. And I think it's a really interesting idea. We have a great time with it. And then the third one, it's just, I love movies. I've always loved movies. I went to school for photography. I'm super into cinema in that way. And so it's called Movie Cinema Film Club. And it sort of touches on all the different aspects of movies. Because I think there is like film and then there's movies, you know? It's like Goonies is a movie, but like maybe Sunset Boulevard is cinema. And so it's like, we watch a couple films, there's 3 of us, we talk about it, and we give each other shit. There's fun, we do trivia. And it's just a way to keep in touch with friends. So that one's a little harder as I guess as a listener, because you got to watch the films too, you know? So, but if you're into that kind of thing, you can hear a couple people talk about it with you.
That's awesome, man. Sweet.
Podcasts are a great space. I know you know that too. It's a great space to like get your ideas out. It's therapy.
Yeah. You went dark again. I like it when you know, I like doing the podcast mostly for this reason, is, you know, getting to talk with another artist and just chatting. That's like, that's the way I prefer to do podcasts anyways. Just like, especially, you know, since I spend all my time in my studio working, this is a way for me to actually be a little bit social. Besides doing the comedy thing. But anyways,
especially in the wintertime in Chicago.
Oh yeah, dude. Speaking of, I was so excited because the other day, it was yesterday, the snow was almost gone. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then we got about 7 or 8 inches of snow. Like I was working around, it was around 1 o'clock, and the snow was melting everywhere. And I have a little fish pond in my backyard, and I'm like, oh, the fish are out. This is so nice. And then I was like, I need to take a power nap because my eyes are so tired and I can't paint anymore. And so I lay down on my couch down here, and I'm like, just chilling. I took a 1 hour nap. I wake up and there's 3 inches of snow everywhere, and it's you can't even see across the street. And within 5 or 6 hours, it was like, I mean, this morning I had to go out and shovel the driveway, and like it's getting. When is this?
Honestly, living in San Diego with it's usually between 60 and 80 degrees at all time of the year. It is kind of nice to see snow, but I don't miss those other parts. Yeah.
No,
I grew up in Ohio, so it's like,
so you know,
I lived in that. Yeah.
My daughter, my 4-year-old, she goes, when I walked upstairs, she goes, Daddy, are you gonna be mad? And I go, why? She goes, look at all that snow out there. It is not summertime. Because she heard me the other day say like, oh, I can't wait for this to be over with. I want it to be warmer out. But like, she's like, she's so funny, man. This I want to show you some fan art in just a sec, by the way. But she this morning she comes in and she wakes me up. She jumps on me and she goes, Daddy, you know the dad in Elf, you know, with the Will Ferrell movie. She goes, he's kind of like Darth Vader, right? Because he turns good at the end. He was bad, and then he turns good at the end, just like Darth Vader. I was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, but he didn't have a lightsaber, so it's very different, you know.
Yeah.
I love her little mind. It's like that's the first thing you say when you wake up. Anyways, so let me share some fan art with you here.
Fan art.
Yeah. There's a few here that I think are pretty cool. All right, so I don't know if you see this here.
Yeah,
This is by Mark Schmid.
Nice.
Schmid.
I think I know Mark. Yeah.
It's funny. And let's see. This one's cool. This is by Dominic Zeilinger.
Oh, yeah. Nice. That's great.
Speaking of design, he always has like pretty cool feel to his work.
I can totally see me drawing like that. You know, I always like to simplify so hard. It's like Jan Optavik and I were talking a long time ago, and he's like, we sort of looked at each other like, I can't do what you do. Both of us said that because he's adding and creates a shape, and I'm taking everything away. And he's like, I wish I could draw like that. And I'm like, I wish I could draw like that. It's like, I just can't untrain my brain from drawing in that graphical way. Ever since Hanna-Barbera, man, that was like,
I love that. Yeah, me too. Man.
That was what I grew up on.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's the best.
Whoa, that's awesome.
This is by Paula Petlawani.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
I like the I think I don't know if it's watercolor. I think it is watercolor.
Yeah, it looks like watercolor, huh? Yeah. Maybe it's Procreate watercolor or something.
No, I think it's legit. I think I was wondering if it was watercolor or markers, but
that's great.
And this is by my favorite French caricature artist, Jacques Lemonnier.
Wow, that's really awesome. That looks a lot like me, like real. Like that's almost creepy to look at. Like he captured my soul.
Yeah, I like I like his cross hatching is, you know, it's similar to what Jan does, but it's got more of a looseness to it that I like.
I was gonna say, it's a lot looser. That's great.
Jan is like Catholic about his cross hatching.
Yeah,
he's like, it's so tight, it's crazy.
I know, that's awesome. That's an awesome drawing. I love that. This
is a pretty awesome one.
Wait, is that that's a drawing or a painting?
No, this is a painting. This is by Christina Verratti.
Holy fuck!
Yeah.
That's insanity. That boggles my brain. I can't do like this.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Wow.
Nice brushwork.
That's wild.
Nice work on the hands too.
Yeah. Jeez, that's amazing.
I really like I think the likeness is good. I think the painting is good, but my favorite thing about this painting is I love the mood and the tone. Like there's like a really nice palette, like this kind of like, you know, off cream background is like really cool.
Yeah, with like what looks to be on the right side of that, like a little bit of green or blue right there. Like I don't know, that's amazing. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll send these to you as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you to all those people.
Yeah,
that's so crazy.
anyways, we got to wrap this up because I got to paint some stuff.
Wrap it.
But
Wrap it.
dude, thank you so much for joining me for this and talking, and it's just been fun to chat with you, man. And
Absolutely.
it is crazy that, you know, you're involved with so many things, but also it's inspiring. And that it's one reason why I want to talk to you, because I think a lot of people will be inspired by that. You want to let people know like where they can find you and all that good stuff?
Sure. There's a couple ways you can do that. If you want to listen to the podcast, well, I already told you the names, but Shit Show Media, that's SHT Show Media. Everything kind of links from there. Also, my personal Instagram is @Beau Hufford. That's BEAUHUFFORD. And then follow us on Riff City Comedy. If you're ever in San Diego or LA, man, you might see us. We'd love to have you at the show.
Awesome. And
not you, Jason. I mean, everybody else, but not you.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to that place. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining me for the podcast this week. And coming up soon, I'm blanking on his name right now. Man, you know what? You're gonna have to wait. It's a surprise. I actually have like, I actually just remember, like, I can't remember if there's two different people coming up and I don't know the order, so I'm not going to say who's next.
I hope you did this on the last episode with me. I really do.
Oh, no. I didn't know I was going to have you on last time.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. No, but everybody, please also remember to check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Jason Seiler. And Anthony Francisco, he is actually going to be on a special Patreon episode. He's a designer for Marvel. He created Groot and a bunch of really awesome characters like that. So he is going to be on going through his process with his drawings and his paintings, and it's going to be a really cool talk. So it's going to be more than a podcast. It's more of like a workshop in a way. But please check out the Patreon. Every week I do new videos of me drawing and painting, answer questions and whatever else. So I appreciate the support, and everybody be safe, and we'll see you next time.